Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you guys doing? I don't know why I feel like there we go. That's better. How are you guys doing? How was your weekend? This is Lia Abney with Keep It Moving Monday Morning Motivation. Thank you guys for tuning in once again on this Monday morning. You guys know what I do. Those of you who are joining me for the first time, I am a consultant, author, and speaker, and welcome. Good morning to you. This is an opportunity for you to come to get some motivation for the week or come back and review or replay Leah Abney with the Keep It Moving Monday Morning Motivation to get you through your week. Okay? How are you guys doing? So every time I come on, you guys know what I do. I talk about my weekend. I ask you guys, how was your weekend? How did you guys in your neck of the woods? How was your weekend? In your city, how was your weekend? How was the weather? Go ahead and put it in the comments and let me know. Don't forget to tell me who you are, where you're watching from, so I can say hello to you. So good morning to you again. So up here in Georgia, I don't live in Atlanta or ATL as they call it. Um, I don't live in that area, but I'm about 2 hours east, east of Atlanta, and in the Augusta area, just by a hop, skip, and jump from South Carolina is where my residence is, somewhere in that uh, vicinity. So, how are you guys doing? How was your weekend? So this weekend, as I had stated last time when we came on, that I have made an effort to take care of my mind, body, and soul. And part of that is on Sundays, COVID, I've been streaming for some of you. Yes, I do attend service, but I've been doing it virtually. But I've decided to, you know what, Leah, take that at home. You don't necessarily have to sit in your home and do that. So I've made an effort to visit parks in the area. So I hop in my car early in the morning and I go find myself a lake to sit at and I listen to the word, the service, and I enjoy the scenery. I enjoy God's nature He has created on this earth and just taking it all in. So this time I took a trip out to not too far from where I live. It's about a 30-minute ride to uh, J. Thurman Lake, and it was actually so serene, so wonderful. Enjoyed. It was so quiet. There was probably only a couple other people around me, so definitely the social distancing, still practicing that. And I actually enjoyed I mean, this time I just sat there. I just sat there. I listened to the word, of course. And I did a little bit of journaling. I usually take a book out there and read. And so I just want to encourage you guys, you know what, these times and are very difficult. Take some time to, just find something that is going to fill you back up, that fills you back up, especially if you're faced with, stressful situations. Get ready to face your Monday morning. And why is this self-care important? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a business professional, doing the job that I do, regardless of whether you're sitting at a desk because you work on computers all day in an office, or if your particular job requires you to go out and you're servicing people, you're on your feet. Take some time for yourself. And I know that sometimes it can be difficult. Maybe you can't take a 30-minute ride. I get that. I get that. Walk around your neighborhood. Just take a walk out in the neighborhood. Take a walk out to your mailbox. Take a walk out to your backyard if you have one. If it's a balcony you have, go sit out on your balcony. If you're in an apartment complex, sit out on your balcony. Just look outside and just, taking some fresh air because it does your body good. It does your body good. So this weekend I was able to get a lot of things done, a lot of reflecting, of course. And sometimes I could be very undecisive what I want to do and when I want to do. A lot of phone calls, got some things done business wise, knocking out. I'm in school too, so I'm knocked out that stuff. So I'm like, okay, got that done. But I did take some time for me. So, and yeah, I even went out in my yard and, did some little sprucing up a little bit, laid some seeds down, in some pots and watered those and, got some things, old shrubbery and, trying to sprouts out the backyard. So that's what my weekend was about. That's what my weekend was about. And some quiet time. I had some quiet time where I just relaxed, which is really, really good. But you guys, one of the things that I struggle with, I don't know about you, and we're going to talk about this. I remember growing up and always feeling like I'm being compared to those that are around me. And sometimes that happens on your job or it happens in somewhere else. So we're going to talk a little bit about um, how to feel. How do you get over those feelings of feeling like, you don't matter and, nobody values what you have to offer. So we're going to talk about that this morning. And so I want you guys to stick with me. My voice is sounding really crazy this morning to me. So I hope that I could get through this without any hiccups. But you guys stay tuned and we'll be right back. All right.
Black G, Black G.
Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Keep It Moving Monday Morning Motivation Show. I thank you guys for joining me. My name is Lia Abney, consulting author and speaker of Lia Abney LLC. If you want to learn more about what I have to offer, please go and visit my website. It is at liaabneyllc.biz. That is www.liaabneyllc.biz. And there you have the opportunity to see browse my website, visit my store. You guys, I got some wonderful things on there. One of the things that I am very, very big on is journaling. And so I do have several journals, and this is just one of them, Women Pursuing Destiny. So you can go ahead and take a look. Also have some other books and items that are on there. I have a workbook, the 3 C's of action to help you set your goals for achieving what it is you want to do, whether it's professionally or as an entrepreneur. So those services are available on my website. I am going to be doing a little shifting around on my website, focusing more on the corporate side and small business side, as doing a lot of the team development and structuring of small businesses. So you'll see that coming soon. But however, the one-on-one services, I will be tailoring back on that. I will be doing more of the group that will help businesses as a whole be able to move their goals and structure their businesses so that they're achieving their profit goals that they desire to do. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on that. And guess what? You know what, you guys? If you want to watch more of the Keep It Moving Monday Morning Motivation Show, you can find me on YouTube. That's right, we are on YouTube. And guess what? Just go to the YouTube, type in the search features, Lia Abney LLC, and you will find me. And please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You guys subscribe and follow me on YouTube, and I greatly appreciate it. That is where you're going to be able to watch all the episodes of the Keep It Moving Monday Morning Motivation with me, Lia Abney. So, you guys, as I was talking about on the top of the show, one of the things that I think is very challenging, and I made a point of not doing this with my kids because growing up, I always felt as though I was being compared. If you grew up or currently live in a household where there are multiple siblings, one of the things that I think, and it may have been just my generation, I don't know, If you grew up somewhere around the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, I don't know so much about the 80s and 90s. And those of you who are way into the 2000s, maybe you did and maybe you didn't, where you felt like you always being compared to somebody. Maybe you are a single um you were the only child in your home and you felt like you were being compared to, maybe your parent when they were a child. Or maybe it's somebody they highly, admire, maybe it's a cousin or a niece or a nephew, somebody, why can't you be more like them? And, it seems like somebody else in the family is getting more attention than you. And it just was I found it interesting that even as I'm completing my college degree, that it was a topic that was discussed in one of the books that I was reading, and it really dealt with, employers that where or organizations where there's an in group and there's an out group. Okay, the in group and the out group. And of course, the in group are the ones who are more favorable, and then the out group are those who are less favorable. They get treated the same. You see some favoritism happening. And that's very important as a leader that we are very mindful of whether or not we're showing favoritism. Are we treating others or maybe not accepting others' ideas, in a group? And the dynamics and how that creates sometimes conflict in an organization. And of course, if you're doing that in your home, it causes conflict in your home. So, how do you handle that? How do you navigate through that? So, our topic for today is nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you. And sometimes there are, one things that I've learned is when you're being always compared, or maybe you're doing the comparing, right? You're doing the comparing. You're comparing yourself to other people. Where does that come from? Where's the foundation from that you start comparing yourself with other people? Is it because out of jealousy? Is it because it seems like you desire something to happen in your life and it's not happening in the way that you want it to or in the time that you want to. So you're always comparing yourself to somebody else, not ever being content in the things that you are doing or not exploring. So I want to go a little bit deeper into this particular topic because I found it very interesting. Like I said, I was reading it in my textbooks, and then of course this ended up being a topic of um, discussion in the topic of the sermon that I listened to on this weekend too. So, it's like, okay, God, maybe you want me to kind of research this out a little bit. So I was doing a little bit of reflecting on myself. Leah, do you compare yourself to certain people? Are you taking that um, those thoughts of comparison into relationships or into situations that you are currently involved right now? And so I really did. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get this thing under control. And sometimes it leads to indecisiveness, is what one of the things that I find when I'm making decisions, it impacts that. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about this. And I want you to do your own reflecting. So if you have a journal right now, as I am talking, go ahead and take notes and write them down as they're coming to you so that you can come back and reflect on those and then be able to apply some of the tips that I'm going to be giving you today to help you navigate through those times where you feel like you're being compared on your job, in your home, in relationships, how to navigate through those. Because sometimes what I've realized is that I have to start with me because I can't change everybody. Matter of fact, I can't change my children, but I can be an example of how to handle certain things. And so hopefully through my actions, through my behavior. Now, I want you to tell you, I don't get it right every time because sometimes I just cut up like a hot fool. I'm just going to let you know I have my moments. But I hope that through that, I could go back and reflect on it and then make some necessary changes as I move it along to be able to live the life that I want to live. Because remember, I talked about last time we came on that I am purposely, like committed to being an active participant in my own happiness. And so one of the things I wanted to be able to do is say, okay, how do I do this? How do I navigate through this, trying to create my own happiness? So one of the things is, I'm starting to do the things I enjoy and that I want to do and not let anybody else come in and tell me differently. So one of the things I did was, I'm going to start on every week, going to a park and enjoying myself, getting outside and doing it the way I want to instead of other people telling me how to do it. Period. Period. I'm going to start doing it my way. And through that, it's like I am getting a lot more, um, I'm feeling more like myself. I'm feeling more like myself instead of feeling like I have to do it other people's way. So back to the topic, nothing compares to you. So as I started reflecting on this weekend, and I started thinking about it, this particular scripture came to me is 2 Corinthians 10 and 12. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. Let me start that over. My eyes aren't focusing right today. I don't know why. But 2 Corinthians 10 and 12 says this. We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. And that really is they boast about themselves, right? When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. Okay, when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. And so, what this pretty much means is, in my mind, this is how I'm interpreting this. And maybe you have a different interpretation. So, the first thing that really sticks out to me is this sense of comparison happens in two forms. This sense of comparison happens in two forms, where I am thinking I'm all that in a box of Cheerios or a box of whatever term you want to use, okay? Okay, when I think I'm all that, okay? And or when I am comparing myself to everybody else to determine what I will be and what I will not be. Okay. When I'm always comparing myself and I'm never satisfied, when I'm comparing myself and I think that I can do it better, or I'm comparing myself and I think that anybody else's ideas or thoughts are not, valid. This becomes a very dangerous thing, especially when you are on a job and you have other employees, because what happens? You end up creating this dissension between the team members where one group would turn around and dismiss the other group at any given time. So if you have a particular, let's just use one or two people. You have a supervisor that always thinks that one person's ideas are better than another's. You're going to start making that person feel valued. Not feel valued. You're going to make them feel as though they or that they are not creative enough. You're going to impact their self-esteem. You're going to make them start feeling bad about themselves and feel as though they are not good enough. Okay, if you're doing that in your family against your kids, you're always comparing one kid against, why can't you be more like them? Why can't you do it this way? Why can't you get good grades? When I was a kid, I always got good grades. Why can't you? And so this sense of comparison, you impact the way they think about themselves and about the world around them and how they relate with other people. And that could end up becoming, it could impact them as they're growing, and these are things that they hold on to where they feel they're not good enough, where they get into certain situations where they feel embarrassed, and then it brings up these feelings of anger, it brings up these feelings of discontent, where they are never satisfied with anything that they do or anybody else does. So this thing of comparison can really impact people's ideas of how they see themselves in certain situations. So this is the thing with this particular scripture, and I'm gonna go back to this. It says we do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. So I'm always talking about myself, always talking about the great things that I do. And I know for some, I'm gonna go back. I know for some, yeah, you're always talking about what you're doing with. It's not talking about doing. It's sharing. And I have to be mindful. I'm gonna be mindful. I have to be mindful. Am I boasting about myself, or am I really sharing some valuable information that others can use? Okay. If I publish a new book and I want to sell it, I'm gonna talk about it. Okay. I'm going to talk about it. If I want to share the good news to encourage other people that, hey, look, this is what I'm doing and you can do it too. And I want to encourage you, or I want to just share for other people to celebrate me, then that's one thing. But however, if I am just boasting that what I am doing is better than anybody else and that nobody else can do it better than me, that's another thing. That's where I have gotten off the deep end. That is where I've gone off the deep end. And so being very mindful of that comparison because um again, growing up, I always felt as though I was never good enough. Okay. I always felt that one person in our family was better than another person and that there was nothing that I could do that would matter. And so what ended up happening is I ended up being very quiet. I ended up not talking very well. And I think it impacted how I related to other people that I came across when it came into my certain relationships. And you may find yourself the same. And so one of the things that I made very sure of not doing when it came to my own kids is not comparing them. Even though my daughter, she's the youngest one, she's very competitive. She'll say, Mom, she says, I'm doing, I got better grades and I'm doing better than, my brothers, right? And I'm like, you know what, Chantel, you've been doing very good. They did their thing and now you're doing yours. Yes, you're doing very, very well. However, you two are different. And so I try not to do any comparison, but so that they know that I love them equally the same. Okay, equally the same. And I and so what that happens is it helps them to learn how to relate to each other instead of feeling resentment against each other. And it's the same thing on your job. Given that as a leader, given that equal attention to your team members. Okay, now they may be different. You want to build those relationships, and they may be different. Maybe one is a little bit more organized than another. Maybe one's a little bit more uh, innovative than another. Maybe one problem solves differently than another person problem solves. Maybe one communicates better than another, but is a lot more organized. How then do you take those particular talents, build them up in their particular area to create this team where they are able to coexist and continue to move forward to accomplish the goals versus feeling as though one is an in group and one's an out group because one's better than the other. So being very mindful of that. We all have our own work to do internally in order to overcome that feeling like you need to compare yourself or compare others. Okay. As an entrepreneur, we're always seeing people that are doing great things, and you're like, or as a speaker, even you may see people on certain platforms. You may say, and you want to do the same thing as they, or why isn't mine coming in? And we're thinking that we need to have the right money, we need to have the right connection. All of those are very valid. However, there's a lot of things that you yourself can do. And one of the things is that we have to do our own work. Comparing yourself to others on your job or family leads to anger, discontent, and also discord. And that's one of the things I'm talking about when I'm saying that when you're comparing yourself, when you're constantly comparing yourself, you get self-doubt, you get you might start feeling angry, and you may displace that anger on somebody else that really wasn't the source of why you keep comparing yourself to other people. You may compare yourself. Okay, how many of you, and be honest with yourself, be honest with yourself. You walk outside your door, if you own a home, you're looking at your neighbor's yard over there, you're looking at your neighbor's yard over there, and the next thing you're doing is you're going and you're doing all this stuff to your yard. to try and outdo, that comparison. Now, some um, being competitive, if it's a healthy competition, if it's healthy, that's one thing. Because one thing I noticed, I was like, man, my yard look horrible. And so what I did was I would go across the street and I was like, look, can I ask you a question? I said, I'm having problems with this. What do you recommend? And so my neighbor, he's like, look, this is what I put in my yard. I recommend you put this. I have extra back and I'm going to give you my stuff. And you go ahead and just put it and make sure you water. And he told me everything I needed to do. And I was so happy. And it wasn't, again, that was a healthy comparison. That was healthy. Okay. Those unhealthy comparisons is if I was looking at my neighbor's yard and don't talk to nobody, didn't do no research, or maybe I did a little bit on the internet. We know once we get on internet, we think we know everything, right, you guys? And then I started buying a whole lot of stuff, and then I wasted a whole lot of money on stuff that did not work. And next thing I know, one thing I did not pay attention to is the type of grass that I have. Because one type of grass that is sown in your yard, and you buy the wrong stuff to for your yard, you can end up causing more harm than good, right? So again, we all have our own work to do. It requires knowledge. It requires, connecting with it does require some connecting with the right people, but it requires you to start with yourself first. Okay, so comparing yourself to others on your job or family can lead to anger, discontent, and discord. So, how do you find your own identity when you are faced with in a situation when you're being compared all the time? It seems like, you know what? I'm my own person. I'm my own person, and being able to walk into that. But sometimes it's not so much that somebody else is comparing you to somebody, but you're comparing yourself to other people that are around you. And so being very mindful of that. Number one, it can impact your self esteem. Okay, it can impact your self esteem. How you see yourself, how you relate to other people, how you handle certain situations. Do you start speaking words of self doubt, and then you start connecting with the people or connecting on your job? Okay, you stop performing. Your performance can be hindered. Is one of the things that I've learned is that um, when I feel that I am, because you feel threatened. Yeah, in some ways, you feel threatened, but it does impact your self esteem. Another reason why comparison can be harmful is that um, you can test the limits of your gifts. Okay, it's one of the things that you can do. Test the limits of your gifts. And so, I'm sorry, I skipped one. What I'm talking about right now is ways to keep from falling into the trap of comparison is test the limits of your gifts, knowledge and talents. In other words, for instance, one of the things that I like doing is I love music, okay, and I enjoy that. But another thing, like on my job, I was like, you know what? I'm not able to get the training because of staff, because of money. At the time, I wasn't able to improve some of my skills and my knowledge in the particular area that I'm in. And I'm like, and I start feeling some kind of way because of that, because I wasn't feeling valued. New people would come in and seem like their ideas were better. Um, it seems like every time I tried to provide input, I was being easily dismissed when I provided input. And I start, my self esteem and how I felt about myself as a valued member of the team. I start feeling some kind of way. And I was like, okay, Leah, what can I do specifically for myself that there are ways to keep me from falling into the trap of comparison, whether somebody doing comparing me to somebody or I'm comparing myself to somebody. What ways can I do? And so one of the things is that I can test the limits of my own gifts, knowledge, and talents. So if there's something else that I want to improve on, if there's something that I want to get better at, I need to be able to gain that knowledge myself and get that information myself. And of course, we have access to the internet. There are so many free courses, such as that offer either free courses, opportunities to learn something, or there are other resources where you may pay a small monetary, fee, such as Udemy. I think it's also Skillport or Skillshare, excuse me, is one of them called Skillshare is another area where you can go and you get a membership and you pay a little bit of money and you go through the courses you learn. Of course, you can easily just go on YouTube and you can find so many things to learn. Like even when it came to gardening, I started looking at things from gardening. I joined a Facebook group to on gardening, and I learned from them as well. So there's different ways you can gain knowledge and information to test the limits of your gifts, knowledge, and talents. You're like, well, Leah, how do I know what my gifts, knowledge, and talents are? What are those things that, okay, so for instance, if you're currently working a job, like for myself, as a management analyst, I am an analyst, and what I've learned is there are so many different types of um, software where I can learn how to collect data, how to analyze data, and I know this is way off, but perhaps, and I'll use another example, and and so one of the things that I did, I was like, okay, I want to learn how to use this particular software. Maybe I want to learn how to do pivot tables. Maybe I want to learn how to create formulas that's going to help me calculate, you know, means and average and all this other stuff. I know I'm talking way out of you probably would y'all it's probably saying boring. But when it comes to collecting data, how sorting it and understanding the impact of the data, and stuff like that. So if I want to do that, how would I do that? I can search on YouTube or I can take a course, that was low cost, and then I can gain that extra knowledge that I then could take and apply for another job if my heart's desire, which you guys I am going to be doing. And so I am now testing my knowledge, right? My knowledge when it comes to my talents, and my gifts, where are ways that I can use those. So if I am an author or, author, speaker, or some of the things I do. So now what I'm doing is I'm connecting with other people. And as opportunities come to me for speaking or collaborating with another person who's doing a workshop or something else, I am like raising my hand now. I am now raising my hand instead of somebody um, directly picking me. Okay. It's like being on a team, right? You guys know how it is. Sometimes you're on a team and um, you're the last one to be picked, right? And so it requires that one person that's willing to pick the last person first. Okay, the last person first. And so this sense of comparison, it can really impact you being able to explore some of your gifts, explore some, extend your knowledge, and also your talents. In other words, try that one thing that you keep running away from. For me, I'm not a very big music person. My kids, all three of my kids play an instrument. I've dabbled a little bit in piano, and I've taught myself a little piano, so I can take give me a little bit, a little time, and yes, I can do that. So what are the things that interest you? What are those things that you've had in your head that you like? I think I could do that. Maybe it's photography, maybe it's painting, maybe it is, dance, maybe whatever it may be. Maybe it's, being an entrepreneur, selling a particular product. Maybe, you're more into the organic herbs and stuff like that, and you want to make candles or, you know, um, healthy items and products and creams and makeup, whatever it is that you're doing, extending that knowledge. Because sometimes when we're waiting for other people to acknowledge us, instead of comparing us to somebody else, where you're feeling as though you're not valued. So what are you going to do? So there are some things that you actually can do to make yourself feel more valued. And then sometimes, let me tell you something. There are times that when I recognize that that exists, especially if I'm working for a business, it's like, okay, Leah, that exists. Where can I find my own center? Where can I find my own place and be okay with that? And one of the things that I have to be mindful is number one, I got to continue to do my job. is first and foremost. I got to continue to do my job. Second of all, is that I have to get the courage to make a change. So, is this job still for me? Is this job still for me? And it's probably time to move on. So, again, test the limits of your gifts, your knowledge, and your talents. In other words, try that one thing that keep you that you keep running away from. Number, this is another one. Work hard, but play harder. Work hard, but play harder. Ensure that you're adding stuff into your life that's going to make you feel good about yourself, because you're always going to have somebody that's always going to try and compare you to something or to someone. And you may always have those seasons where you feel as though you're, again, when you're having that being done to you, where you're being compared to other people on your job, or maybe it's in your home or your community or whatever it may be, you tend to internalize that a little bit. And so I can turn around and work hard to change that thing, but I want to also make sure I'm adding some time for me to relax, okay, and play hard, to enjoy my life. And so that's one of the things that I purposely have done by, look, I'm going to start getting out here and I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm doing whatever little traveling I can. And so one of the things is I'm going to visit some parks. Maybe for you is taking a walk. Maybe for you is painting. Maybe for you is, that play harder, maybe trying to connect with your friends virtually, or, whatever it is that's going to make you relax, is going to make you feel good about your choices and make you feel good about yourself. So do those things. Be mindful about spending a whole lot of money. Okay, don't. I'm not telling you go on no shopping spree. Those unhealthy habits that can turn around and later you have to pay for. So be mindful about that. Okay. All right. So the next thing is um the next thing I want to remind you of is please be humble. Be humble yourself. Okay, it's one of the things that I want to say in this process of comparison, and nothing compares to you, is to humble yourself. Remember the scripture in 2 Corinthians 10 and 12 that I had read at the top, that states we do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. And so here it tells you that, pretty much I need to humble myself. Okay. I need to humble myself, and I need to use wisdom. And wisdom means that, what? And I know for some you're like, well, what does it matter what people say? And some people have that mindset, and good for you. But for some, you're a little bit more sensitive, and you internalize things, and that is okay. That is okay. But what we don't want to do is internalize yourself to the point where you have low self-esteem. And so some of the ways that you can overcome that is test the limits of your own gifts. Test the limits of your own gifts. Explore some of the things that you have been putting off because you've been too scared to do it, or you lack confidence. And so I want to encourage you to build your confidence and write out a plan if you have to. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. And that's what I did. I purposely wrote in my journal, I purposely wrote, made a conscious decision that I'm going to start visiting different parks. So I started doing the research, seeing how far they are, how far I want to drive, when I want to go. And then I'm making it a regular time of schedule where I am taking care of me. And so that is my play hard. That is my play hard. Okay, that is my play harder. I work hard, but I play harder. And I'm making emphasis on the play harder. And I humble myself when I'm in certain situations to know, you know what? I don't need to compare myself, and I don't need to boast myself higher than anybody else, because yes, somebody can do what I do. I could be obsolete, and somebody else can come and do it. And so at the time in the season that I am doing that one thing and I am doing it well, I want to make sure that I'm humbling myself to remind myself that to recognize others who are working with me, who have helped me along the way. Okay. In Galatians 6, 3 and 5, it says, if anyone thinks that there are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. So I don't want to be deceiving myself in the process of, doing great things, accomplishing things. I don't want to be deceived. Okay. And thinking that nobody else can do it and I'm the only one that can. And that I'm better than anybody else. That requires me to humble myself. Each one should test their own actions. And again, test your own action, your own knowledge. Am I boasting? Am I acting as though I'm better than anybody else? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because there's always somebody that can that's doing it better than me, and I'm like, okay, but it doesn't make myself obsolete, or no, it doesn't make me valued. Okay, doesn't make me valued. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing. Okay, without comparing themselves to someone else, for each one should carry their own load. So my load may be different than somebody else's, and I don't have to compare it. I don't have to compare it, because guess what? What I do and what I'm capable of doing, somebody else may not be able to capable of do it. Maybe they are capable of doing it, but they do it differently and at a different level, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. It doesn't make my what I'm doing obsolete. It doesn't make what I'm doing obsolete. It's my journey. Maybe eventually I will get there, and I need to get there in the time that I need to, and not rush the process. Not rush the process. So I don't have to change what I'm doing and comparing. So that's what I have for you guys. I know I kind of stumbled through that a little bit, but I hope that you heard the message behind the message from the messenger on the topic of nothing compares to you. And typically, and bottom line is this: whatever God has put on the inside of you, guess what? Nobody can do it better than you. And you don't have to compare yourself to what somebody else is doing. You don't have to compare yourself to what somebody else is doing. In comparing ourselves, what happens is we miss some critical things that we need to learn along the way. That's going to either help yourself or help somebody else. And not only that, we don't want to be a stumbling block for somebody else in achieving their goals, but we want to encourage them along the way. And so some of the ways that I want to just point out a couple more things is that, good, test the limits of your own gifts, knowledge, and talents. In other words, try that one thing that you keep running away from. Test that. Test it and see if you can do it. Is it right in? Maybe you need to get out and ride a bike, on the weekends, or maybe you need to call somebody you've been putting off having a conversation with. Whatever it is that you're needing to do. And I know life happens, you guys. Life happens. Sometimes things do get in the way, and I get that. Managing that and your happiness becomes very critical, especially in this day and time. And so I'm hoping that you guys are achieving the things that you desire to achieve in your life. And guess what? I want to encourage you to hashtag keep it moving. Keep it moving in your life, keep it moving in your relationships, and keep achieving those things that you desire in your heart. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining me for the Keep It Moving Monday morning show. I really appreciate those of you who have tuned in with me. It encourages my heart to keep coming to you every morning when I can, when my voice is feeling up to it. So I thank you guys so much, and y'all have a great week.